Welcome, everybody, to the Hockey Think Tank podcast, brought to you by Hockey Think Tank U, an online community from the Hockey Think Tank for all passionate players, parents, and coaches to go to get a little bit of education and a little bit of inspiration regarding the greatest game on the planet. What an episode we have for you guys here today. We're bringing on my former teammate and the current head coach of Warroad Hockey in Warroad, Minnesota. They just won the Minnesota State Championship in high school. Jay Hardwick, what an amazing teammate he was. What an amazing coach he is now. And I'm sure if you are listening to our podcast, you are familiar with good old Warroad, Minnesota. Population of about 2,000 people who continue to churn out high-level hockey players in college. We got Olympians. We got Stanley Cup winners, guys like TJ Oshie, Brock Nelson, like Gigi Marvin, like dude, this is like the mecca of hockey. And you will get that sense when we get to Hardo here in just a couple minutes. But before we get to Jay Hardwick, let's bring on the talent of the podcast, the one Jeffrey Jehu Lavecchio Vex. What's up today, man? You got some big things going on in the GMT, BM, I don't know what to even call it anymore, world. What's shaking, brother?
Big things, man. We just dropped our off-season online programs, 2 of them, 14 and up in the gym or 13 and below at home. I've had probably at least 100 people buy the 13 and below. Parents, you can't get your kid to the gym. You only got one car. You know, it's the gym is 30 minutes away, 20 minutes away. It's too hard to get there. Okay. I've got my online 20-week off-season program that takes your young player from day one of their off-season all the way up until the start of the season. Super fun, super engaging, tons of coordination drills. The 13 and under at home is about LTAD, long-term athletic development. Workouts are, anywhere from 40 to maybe 55 minutes. Everything you can do is with equipment at home. If you don't have a ladder, you can make a ladder out of tape on the ground, super easy. And maybe you got to buy some bands. But other than that, everything will be at home. People are already loving it. People started it on Monday. You can sign up anytime, start anytime you want. Same thing with the 14 and up program. That's going to need a full gym. You're going to actually have to go to the gym. You're going to need everything, dumbbells, kettlebells, sled, all that type of stuff, barbells, trap bar. Any big box gym will have it other than like a Planet Fitness. And had, a couple hundred by that so far as well. So we're helping a ton of players for a very low cost price. And they can also add on video with my GMA, Give More Advising video coach, retired pro Michael Hunterbrinker, and they'll break down 3 or 4 of your games from the season, and they'll give you notes. They'll draw on it, tons of things that are going to help every single player who do that, as well as working with a nutritionist as part of the program too, if you opt in for that choice. So tons of ways for us to help players around the world, and we're so excited to be doing that. Tons of teams have already signed up too. So if you're a team or organization and you want to get the off-season program for your team, whether it's at home or in the gym, all you got to do is reach out to me. I give massive discounts to teams and organizations. So hit me up if you guys need help with your training this summer. I can help.
There it is. Man of the people, Jeff Lavecchio. Good stuff, man. So let's talk about Jay Hardwick for a second here, our podcast. And you were on vacation, which kind of stinks that you weren't able to be on, because I think you would have absolutely loved to pick Hardo's brain. Now, we had him on the podcast years ago, like I'm talking year 1, maybe, or year 2 out of the 7+ years that we've been doing this. But if you're not familiar with Warroad, Minnesota, guys, and obviously, if you listen to our podcast, we love the Minnesota hockey model. And this is like the epitome of what the Minnesota hockey model is. Just talking about the rink, talking about the pride in the jersey, talking about player development. Again, you got like Olympians that have come out of this little 2,000 person town. The Christian brothers, one of them on the 1980 Olympic team. You got TJ Oshie. Everybody obviously knows about him in the shootout and winning Stanley Cup. Gigi Marvin on the women's side. Brock Nelson, who just played and won a gold medal with Team USA in the most recent Olympics. Dude, like this is like everything of what hockey is supposed to be. It is everything of what hockey is supposed to be. And it was so incredible to get their high school coach. And again, if you're not familiar with Minnesota hockey, like high school hockey is it's everything. It's absolutely everything. Kids grow up playing in their town. They can't wait to play for their high school team. They sell out the Minnesota State high school state tournament at Minnesota Wild's Arena. Like it's a huge, huge deal. And like I just, obviously he's a former teammate of mine, so it was really cool to be able to reconnect with him. But like to hear him talk about the Minnesota model, to hear him talk about his town, his team, man, it's just like, honestly, the best word is it's just really inspiring. It's really, really inspiring. And I think so many people are going to get a lot out of this episode. He's such a great dude, an unbelievable guy, great hockey coach. They just won the state championship. The women's teams have won a couple state championships in the last couple of years too. And man, just a lot of great stuff in this one.
Dude, I can't wait to listen to it because it's one of the ones I couldn't be on. I take one vacation a year, guys, one vacation a year, and it's always around this time before I get going crushing in the off season with all my clients when they get home. And so I was driving, but I actually really wanted to be on this one because I wanted to hear. I've heard Warroad, since I was 16, 17. You've never been there, but heard all about it. All the Minnesota towns. I feel like I kind of know them because I played with so many Minnesota kids when I was younger. And Topher and I have talked about on the podcast recently, at least on our team, we used to chirp all the Minnesota kids because they loved Minnesota and talked about how great Minnesota was all the time. So us being, immature little 17, 18-year-olds, not like for real chirping them, be like, oh, here we go, talk about Minnesota again. And then now all I do is talk about Minnesota in the way that they did on our podcast. So really wanted to be on this one, but excited to listen to it for the first time, just like you guys are.
Totally. And honestly, if you haven't listened to our episode that we did a couple weeks ago on the power of playing for something bigger than you, it was funny, Vex, like you texted me after the podcast that night. You were like, dude, that might've been the best podcast we've ever done.
That was cool.
And I agree. Like, and this is something that I'm really leaning into right now in a lot of my conversations and a lot of my speeches that I'm doing is just honestly like the power of playing for something bigger than you, not just from an experiential standpoint and being a better team, but I actually think it makes you a better hockey player as well. And we're living in a youth sports kind of time where we're going a little bit too far away from that. I think it's a little bit too much centered on the individual and making it whatever that means, and not enough on the life skills, not enough on playing for something bigger and understanding where you're at. And really being grateful and having gratitude for, the people that have helped you to get to where you are. So like, if you haven't listened to that one yet, I would really encourage you to listen to that one too. But there's going to be a lot of the themes from that. And it's from a speech that I gave in Minnesota at their big Bantam State Championship game. Big Bantam State State Championship tournament. Man, just like, God, this is like everything that hockey should be. And we got to get closer to it,
Totally agree. I mean, God, dude, every year you see all the stuff that goes on for the Minnesota State tourney, and everyone in the hockey world, not just the U.S., is just looking at that like, I wish I was 16, 17, 18 playing there in front of those people with that type of pride behind the team and the town and everything. It's really cool. We talk about a lot on this podcast because there's not really anything else out there like it, and it's obviously working. So very cool.
Yeah, man. Well, let's get over to Hardo. But before we do, let's thank the people that allow us to continue to do this podcast. First and foremost, want to thank IceHockeySystems.com, the best website out there for all your coaching education needs. They got thousands of drills. They got whiteboard explanations from high-level hockey people like Scotty Bowman and tons of NHL coaches. The ability to go in and draw up your drills. We have partnered with them to do an associations platform where you can get this for every single coach in your organization. But not only are they for coaches now, they are also for families too. They have family accounts where you can get this if you're a hockey parent. Great parent education on there on the hockey journey. Also hockey 101 type stuff, so you can learn the game a little bit better. Some great life skills and hockey development things for the kids too. So you guys know this is one of our favorite people in the entire game, the Ice Hockey Systems guys. They do a phenomenal job. So go to icehockeysystems.com today and check it out. Vex, you're up.
I'll give a major thank you to Train Heroic. That is the platform that I use to deliver all of my online training with every team I've ever worked with, NCAA D1, multiple NCAA D3, multiple USHL, multiple kids, tens of thousands. Let's go. Thank you to Train Heroic.
That's it. Okay.
That's it.
All right. We also want to thank one of the best hockey products on the market out there, Helios Hockey. It is a sensor that you put into your shoulder pads that gives you real-time data, real-time feedback on your play on two big things in particular. Number one, what the kids absolutely love, and that is a hustle score. So every time you move out on the ice, that sensor lights up and it gives you a little bit of a read on how fast you're going and how hard you might be working as it relates to your time on the ice, but also unbelievable skating development tools on there as well. So it tracks your skating and makes you a better skater. You want to play high-level hockey today, skating is a huge part of it. So go to helioshockey.com today, and we actually have a coupon code for you to get you a nice little discount. So if you use the coupon code ThinkTank, one word, you will get 20% off your Pro Annual or your Pro 24-month subscription. So go to helioshockey.com and check that out today. Also want to thank Crossbar. This is an end-to-end software solution that helps you to really maximize your efficiency of how you run your youth hockey organization. And so what do they have? They have a really easy-to-use interface, both outwardly and inwardly in your processes. So your back end of doing all your different operations, it just really helps to streamline all of that. And everything from scheduling, everything to communicating with your families. It's just an absolute value add, all in one place, all in one app. We know so many different youth organizations that have made the switch over to Crossbar and have been extremely, extremely happy that you did. So not only do you have things that you can use to help communicate with your families, but also tools for financial management and volunteer management and rink and facility management. So it's just a one-stop shop for you guys. So go to crossbar.org today and check that out. And lastly, thank you to all of our amazing, amazing listeners. We love you guys so incredibly much. And it is funny that we're talking about, Warroad and Minnesota hockey here a lot today. When I went up to give that speech at the banquet for the state championships a couple weeks ago, I had so many people come up and be like, "Hey, we love your podcast, man." And so that's just so cool to hear in so many different spots that we go to hear the impact that we've had on different hockey families, whether you're a coach, whether you're a player, whether you're a parent. It's just really, really cool. And so we want to thank you guys so much. If you can do us a solid, one thing that could really help us to continue to spread the positive message and continue to help educate the hockey world is by interacting with our podcast in your podcast app. So every time you leave a rating or leave a review, anytime you follow us, anytime you download us, like, comment, whatever, it helps with the algorithm and gets us to spread the message a little bit more. So if you can do that for us, that would be awesome. And we continue to do this because we love you guys. We continue to do this because we learn so much from the different guests that we're able to have on the podcast too. And Jay Hardwick, head coach of Warroad Minnesota boys high school team, there's very few people in this world that are better people than this guy. So without further ado, let's bring on Jay Hardwick. All right, we are so excited to have back for round 2 on the podcast. We have the head coach of the boys high school hockey team from beautiful Warroad, Minnesota, Jay Hardwick. Hardo, how are we doing today, man? You guys coming down from the high after winning the state championship or what?
Starting to trying to get back to real life again, but it's been a lot of fun. I
can imagine so, man. And the women's team has won a few state titles over the past couple of years. You guys winning it this year. You guys been so close, in previous years. But just Warroad, it's Hockey Town, USA. That's the name of the town. I'd love to know what a high school hockey state championship means to the town of Warroad, where hockey is everything there. What's it like there right now?
It means everything. Just and not just to the team or the players or myself. It's just the entire community. It means so much. We've had, like you said, the girls have had, tremendous success in the past 5-6 years. And then, but the boys, we hadn't had a state championship for 21 years. And So to bring that back and just to bring that excitement back, and we've had tremendous teams and tremendous players come through the program, and to get a fifth state title, it means a lot to everybody that's involved, because we're such a tight-knit community, and with the hockey, and it kind of all revolves around the rink in the winter. So for us to bring that back, it means a lot to everybody.
100%, man. All right, I'm going to ask you a very unfair question right now, and you're probably not going to answer it. But if you think about, if you like polled the 1,800 or so people that live in Warroad, were they more excited for Brock Nelson, a former Warroad hockey player's Olympic gold medal, or more excited for the boys team bringing home a state championship?
Well, probably Brock, just because that's a whole nother level. I mean,
Yeah.
to do that on the Olympic stage, and to beat Canada like that, and and then his family's legacy with his grandpa and his uncle, that it's the saying holds true: if you want to win a gold medal, you got to have somebody from Warroad on the team. And I'm glad, so happy for Brock to complete that. And I got to talk to him just briefly after we won the state title. His brother was there, and he FaceTimed his brother quick, and I just talked to him in the locker room for a minute. And but just so happy for Brock that he was able to do that, and the whole community was a buzz, and the whole hockey world was a buzz that, for USA Hockey to do that, and for Warroad to share in that is unbelievable. And so it's, you can't compare Olympic gold medal to a state championship, but a state championship for what we do is great for us too.
Unreal, man. So for our listeners that may not be as educated on kind of like Minnesota hockey, the state championship is the biggest deal ever. It's why some kids stay in Minnesota rather than go play junior hockey for their junior and senior years of high school. You sell out the Excel Center or whatever the heck it's called now, some casino or something, like 20,000 strong.
Yeah.
It's an absolute time. And so talk a little bit about what the high school state championship means to Minnesota hockey players as they're coming up through their youth hockey journey.
Well, it's everything. Just just for kids growing up, just to make it to the state tournament is a big deal, because you get to play, at the Grand Casino Arena, as it's called now. But that's where the Wild play. And, you're down there, and our locker room is right next to the Wild's locker room. And it's all the same workers that are there for the Wild games. And so just to make it there is a huge accomplishment for any high school team in Minnesota. And then to be fortunate enough to win there, it kind of takes it to a whole nother level. But like you said, I think until you truly witness it, you don't understand. Like you said, it sells out. They get more fans for the AA state championship than they do for Wild games. I think, just about every year it sets a new record. I don't know, they find a way to sneak people in. And, for the AA state championship, it was 20,000 plus. And then I know for ours, it was 10,000 plus. So, to play in front of that many people, it was unbelievable. This was the first year, I think, that I had been there where for the Class A, where they had the upper deck open. And I think during the semifinals, the attendance was close to 15,000, set a new record. And, you walk out on the bench, you kind of look around, and, oh, this place is pretty full. And it's you come from a town of 1,800 people, and now you're playing in front of 10,000. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine so, man. So incredibly cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about your championship game, because wow, what a range of emotions, I'm sure, as the head coach you were feeling. And you guys go up by 2 goals, and then they come back, and then late in the third they score to go up 1, and then you guys score an empty net goal to send it to overtime, and then eventually you guys win it in overtime. But what was just thinking about how important the Minnesota High School State Championship is to everybody in the state, and then to be able to pull it off in the fashion that you guys did, what was that like emotionally, and just how proud of the boys were you after the game?
Yeah, after it was all said and done, I honestly was, I think, in shock, just because of the whole way it went down, and like you said, the range of emotions and the roller coaster that we were on. We go down a goal late. I think there was 3 minutes and 45 seconds left, and we call timeout and kind of get our bearings. And then but I give a ton of credit to the kids. They didn't panic. When we scored that goal with the goalie pulled, just some of the plays they made where usually when you pull the goalie, it's just try to get the puck on net and hope it's hits somebody and goes in, and just the poise to make a
play.
Yeah, just we get it on the side of the net, and he gives it to the defenseman, rather than trying to stuff it. And then our defenseman gets his head up and has the poise to make the play to find the guy in front for a redirect. And you in those situations to see those kids make those plays, it makes a coach feel really good.
Yeah, I can imagine so, man. And talk a little bit about your goalie. So I didn't even realize this, but your goalie was not necessarily your starter and had to come in section finals and then has a huge game in the championship. Just talk a little bit about your goaltender and just his journey to steal the show there at States.
It was unbelievable. And we had confidence in Patrick, just because, it wasn't like he had never played. He had played, probably close to half the games the year before, and then had played a handful of games this year. And he came in that section final and was outstanding in that game, and, allowed us to make it there. And then at the state tournament, it's something that you can't really even dream about, where a kid comes in that hasn't played necessarily all the games all year and plays like that, and allows us to win a state championship, especially in the championship game. I think in the second period he made 21 saves just in that period alone. And you're really happy for a kid where he puts in his time and he pays his dues, and a great teammate. And then when he gets his number called, he performs to an unbelievable ability, and we wouldn't have won it without him. And great way for him to finish his senior year.
Yeah, dude, totally. And I think about his experience at the state tournament, and just hearing you talk about him there, just knowing what having been involved in the game for so long. It's so easy for players when they don't get recognition or they don't get the playing time to kind of just look inward and feel sorry for themselves or make excuses and things like that. And I certainly know of a lot of kids that I've played with or coached that have kind of went that route and then ended up having a lot of regret, once they hang the boots up. But like, I think about a kid like that and the story that you just told, just like how amazing it is to just, you got to be a great teammate. You got to wait till your number's called if your number's not being called. And then when it does, that's your opportunity to really shine and earn the job back or earn a bigger role if you're a player, whatever it may be. So, knowing your experience in the game and having played and coached for such a long time, just how much more does it hit just knowing that this kid faced a little bit of adversity and was still a great teammate and then just to see him get rewarded like that.
Yeah. And that's what you love to see, that, kids like that get rewarded. And I think it plays a big part of that too, where, like you said, if you have a bad attitude or you kind of shut it down because you're not playing, I don't think you come in when your number is called and you least expect it. I don't know if you perform to the best of your ability when you have that attitude, but when you have the attitude that, I'm going to support the team and I'm going to do everything I can to make us better. And now it's my turn and I got to do everything I can to help us win. And I think that's a big part of, his personality and his mindset that allowed him to come in and play like that. And then, his teammates, when you're a good teammate, the guys want to play hard for you and they're going to rally around you. And I think that was a big part too, where, we didn't, nobody was worried and nobody was nervous. We just, and that's, I think, the big part of our team too. They were a very close knit, team, and they were a great group of kids. It was a great locker room, a great leadership, and that's how you win championships.
Unbelievable, man. Well, I want to ask you just a couple more questions about this year's team. And I posted the interview that Ryan Shagabe did at the end of the game when he was asked about his dad and got emotional. And it was one of the most shared posts I think I've ever done on Twitter. And I just man, how cool of a moment was that as a coach? And obviously, his dad very well.
Right.
How cool of a moment was that as a coach to see the emotion come out of him, knowing what Warroad hockey stands for and how tight knit the community is. I almost feel like it was just the perfect representation of what hockey is supposed to be about and what Warroad hockey is about. But, when you go back and you look at that interview that he did, what does it bring up in you just from having experienced it firsthand?
Yeah, I think that was, like you said, that was a perfect representation of, the way he felt, and, his emotions were, I think, a lot what all of us felt. The players were crying, and the coaches were crying, and I look into the stands, and parents are crying, and I had a ton of former players there that had gone through games like that, and been in that situation that and unfortunately hadn't won, and they were crying. And so it's just the emotion from not only the team and Mooney and just everyone involved shows how much it means to all of us, and that have been involved, whether it was 30 years ago or 50 years ago or just recently. It's kind of, it's like we say, once you're a warrior, you're always a warrior. And there were a ton of people that got emotional because we did what we did, and it was great to see.
Yeah, totally, man. And it was interesting because the next weekend I was up in Sartell, Minnesota, near St. Cloud, and I got asked to be the guest speaker at the Bantam AA state championships. And my message to the kids and I guess the families too that were in there, first of all, so cool how crazy Minnesota hockey goes for their state championships, even at the youth level.
Yeah.
They do not leave any stones unturned. And so getting to see that firsthand and coming in and being able to speak on it. And the topic that I spoke on was just the power of playing for something bigger than yourself. And that's the epitome of the Minnesota hockey model. And, when I look at that interview that he did and he gets so emotional about his dad and family, nobody ever did it alone, nobody
Right.
ever did it alone. To accomplish, whether it's playing for a high school team or winning a high school state championship or getting to college hockey, or if you're lucky enough to get to even the higher levels, the gratitude that we all should have for the sacrifice that everybody has made to allow us to chase our dreams is incredible. And you're kind of double duty. You got a lot of kids that have come up through the Warroad hockey program, a daughter, a son, another daughter, and then another daughter that's coming up. And so thinking about that, even as a hockey parent, knowing all that you and Sarah have done, and sacrificed to allow your kids to chase their dreams and stuff, how much in a town like Warroad even does that hit? Just thinking about that interview and thinking about all the things that parents have to sacrifice to allow kids to chase their dreams.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's just kind of the way we do it here. My parents did it for me and my sisters and brother, and now I'm doing it for my kids, and our family isn't unique. I would say the majority of the families here, that's how it is. And with Mooney, he had been through so much with his family. His dad's coached with me for 10 or 11 years, and his brother, both of his brothers had played for the Warroad program and played in the state tournament. And it was kind of where he was like, I did this for not only myself and my team, it was my whole family and the whole town and the community and everyone that's all the youth coaches and everyone that's done everything to help our team get to that point. And it truly takes a village to build a program like that, and to build a successful program. And I think that's why it meant so much to him and every player on our team, that there was numerous players on our team that have had brothers and cousins and a lot of dads that had played for Warroad, and they understood how it was, something bigger than themselves, and they're playing for everybody and not just the team.
So cool, man. And I think that makes better players at the end of the day when it means something more. And I want to get into that just because I think that is part of why the Minnesota model is so incredible and develops so many elite players, is because they understand the value of playing for something bigger than you. So many other places around the country, and I don't think this is just a hockey problem. I think it's a youth sports problem, but it's so tailored toward the individual and the individual making it, as opposed to like playing for something bigger, playing for the logo on the front of the jersey. Like, I travel around and speak to so many different youth teams and organizations, and I feel like my life's mission right now is to get people to recognize the power of the front of the jersey again with the youth landscape that we're living in. And another like really cool representation of that was TJ Oshie, who's a proud Warroad alum as well. He made a post and he took the picture, and I'm sure you saw it, and he took the picture of his daughter watching, the aftermath of the win, where everybody's going nuts and they're shaking hands with the other team. And, one of the things that he talked about was, I think one of the things that she's probably thinking is, I hope that can be me one day, or that's going to be me one day. And how cool of a moment that has to be for him as a dad, to have been in those situations, and then to see his daughter get excited about potentially wanting to do that at some point. Like, one of the things that I talked about with the kids was like, play for the younger generation. When you're playing for something bigger than yourself, you are playing for the younger generation. And if you're on a high school team, or for us, like in college hockey, like if you're on a college team, we wouldn't have the expectations of winning. We wouldn't have, the big crowds. It wouldn't mean something if it wasn't for everybody that came before us, and the blood and the sweat and the tears that they did. And then the legacy that we're going to leave in the present is going to absolutely have that effect on the next generation that's coming through. So like, as a Minnesota high school hockey coach, and you came up through Warroad too, like, what would you say about, from even like a player development standpoint, just like how important it can be to understand that you're not just playing for yourself. You're not just even playing for the fellas in the locker room. You're playing for the alumni, you're playing for the next generation. Like, how cool is that? And is that something that you work into, your culture every day?
Yeah, 100%. And, we have a sign up in our locker room that, talks about our history a little bit, where I can't, speak it verbatim, but, it lists off the Olympic gold medalists and the national champions and the Stanley Cup champions. And, and it basically just says, they've all sat in this locker room, and, don't give anything less than 100% to disgrace them. And then, so you're playing for those alumni that have been there before. And then also, like you said, with the younger kids, and I remind our boys every year that we're the role models. We're the people that, like it or not, the little kids look up to, all the youth players look up to, and we have to set that example and kind of hold ourselves to a higher standard where, when they see us at practice, and they see us in games, and they see us in our training center, and, there's always eyes on us, whether the kid's, 5 years old or 10 years old or whatever it is, that we set the example, and we want it to be a good example to carry on that legacy that was established before us. And, I think the players really understand that we're just a small part of a legacy that's gone on for, close to 100 years, and all the people that have been here before us and hopefully come after us, that, we leave it in a better place than it was before.
Love that, man. Love that. And what about from like, because one of the things I've been talking about a lot is like how that type of environment, that type of atmosphere, that type of culture is actually really conducive to making better players and developing better players. How does that, like, that willingness to buy into the team? How does that, like playing for something bigger than you, how do you feel like that attributes to, maybe developing better hockey players too, from an individual standpoint?
Yeah, and I think for us in Warroad especially, kids can, wherever they're at in the arena, they can they'll see pictures of TJ Oshie with the Stanley Cup, and right when you walk into the rink, they'll see all the gold medalists and the Olympians that we've had, and then the college players that we've had. So those the kids that are there, they can say, well, I'm skating in the same rink, or I'm in the same town as all these guys, and if I work hard and we call them rink rats. If I'm a rink rat and I'm here every day skating and working hard, it kind of puts those goals and those dreams into perspective a little bit, where it's not something that is unattainable, because now we have the examples that have been through our program forever that show if you work hard and develop your skills and do all the things right, you can play in the Olympics, you can play in the NHL, you can go to college, you can win a state championship. So I think it's great to have that there for the kids to see, that they're in the exact same spot that maybe some of these guys were 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. So incredibly cool. And you mentioned something that I want to really dive into a little bit, because as a former college coach, a lot of our job was getting information, about a kid and their character and everything. And their coach is typically one of the most trusted sources that we have when we're trying to gain information. And I honestly think one of the things that coaches would say to me that would probably excite me the most about a player is if they called that kid a rink rat. This kid's a rink rat. And I know that is a term used a lot there in Warroad. And I think Gigi Marvin, who is, hockey royalty, Olympic gold medalist from Warroad, I think she even has a camp that's called the Rink Rat something camp or something like that. Yeah. But can you define rink rat? It's such a part of the culture. Define rink rat. And I think for all the kids that are listening, listen up. This is so important to your development. So what is a rink rat, and what does it mean to people in Warroad?
Yeah, a rink rat is just you're there all the time, and you're that kid that's on the ice all the time, and you love hockey, you're playing hockey, and it might not, it isn't just, you're not a rink rat if you just show up for, you have 3 practices scheduled this week, and those are the only 3 days that you show up at the rink. And fortunately in Warroad we have a system, and the way it's built is that you can skate every day. And we have it on in our practice rink. It says, come early, stay late, skate every day. And that's kind of the mantra that we promote, where you can show up and we don't have to necessarily pay for ice. So, if you're a squirt, you can practice. If you're on the A team, you can practice with the Bs. And if your brother's on this team, you can go and practice with your brother's team. And so, there's kids that are rink rats in Warroad that probably skate 3-4 hours a day. And, we'll have open hockey all the time, where it's just open. And, we could have kids that are 5 years old all the way through high school players, and they're just out there playing shinny, and they're throwing sticks in the middle and playing games, or just, they're rink rats. They're always there, and they're skating, and they love the game, and they want to get better.
Just love the game, baby. Just love the game. Now, let me ask you a question, because I know you're familiar with what we do. And I know that there are certainly crazy hockey parents and coaches and stuff out there. And I can see a hockey parent be like, oh, this Warroad guy just told me that my kid should be on the ice every day. And all this kind of okay, I need to push. Can you maybe define a little bit what that means? Because that is a huge part, and the slogan up there, skate every day, is a huge part of what kids just love being at the rink.
Right.
But can you kind of draw a distinction maybe between what you guys have, and maybe a way that can be interpreted by a mom or a dad whose sole purpose is to get their kid in the NHL?
Yeah, and it's not, yeah, and that's the thing. That's the beauty of it. It's not pushing. It's they're there just because they love the game. And, mom or dad isn't there, cracking the whip and running them through the paces. It might just be where it's open hockey and they're out there working on, the goofy stuff between the legs and behind the back, and just all those little skills that you probably can't work on in practice because you're running drills and you're working on systems or things like that. It's just the kind of the free play where you're learning, you're figuring it out on your own. And I think that's so important for kids to play kind of outside of the structure sometimes, where it isn't always, we have to do this drill or we have to work on these things. It's okay to just let the kids play and figure things out on their own and love the game. And, as soon as you start pushing and, making it your whole thing that I got to get here and I got to make this team, it starts to turn into a job a little bit. And then I think you lose the love a little bit. And obviously as you go and you get older, you find out that it does become a business. And I think the longer we can hang on to that, just pure hockey, the better off we are.
Yeah, and when it does become a business, the people that usually thrive through that are the ones that love it. And they've developed it before, because it could be difficult to say the least to navigate it when you get up there. But I want to keep going on something that you talked about, because it's something that we've talked a lot about between Vex and I, and a lot of our guests have too, and that's the power of unstructured play. And when you talk to a lot of college coaches and a lot of NHL scouts with the type of talent that you have coming through Warroad, one of the biggest things that we continue to hear is, man, like there's very few kids that can think the game anymore. Right. The kids have always, they're so much more skilled than we were. There's so much skill, but like the ability to process and understand the game is at a point where, people are a little worried about where that's at. And so can you just talk about how, the amount of open hockey that you have and unstructured play and the ability for kids of different age groups to get on the ice with each other, how that contributes to better players, and then obviously better teams that are doing some great things from a team standpoint too?
Yeah. And I think it's just, learning, especially like that's the way it was when I grew up. I was a rink rat, and I grew up and I would be out there with kids 3, 4, 5 years older than me, and you learn from them. They can do things that you can't, and you see things that they're doing, and I want to be able to do that, and then you got to work on it. And I think and like you said, the hockey IQ, and if they can think the game. And I've been fortunate enough to have the caliber of players come through the program where we've had NHL draft picks, and we've got kids playing in college. And so I talked to those college coaches, and I talked to the NHL scouts, and the two biggest things that I take away when I talk to them is, they don't want robots. They want guys that can think the game and have that IQ to make plays and do things that maybe not every other player can do. And then the thing that surprised me the most about with the NHL guys is, if I talk to them, they don't talk a whole lot about hockey. Like they don't ask, can the kid skate? Can he shoot the puck? Can he pass? Because they're NHL scouts. They can see all those things. They don't have to ask me about his skills, but what they always ask about is, what kind of teammate is he? What are his work habits like? How is he in practice? How does he treat other people? All the intangibles that you can't see if you go and watch a game. Those are the things that they always ask about, and they want good people, and they want character guys, because they know that if you have good character and you have good work ethic, that they can figure out the hockey part for you. And those are the guys you want on your team to hopefully win a championship.
100%, man. And being on that side of the ledger for the amount of years that I was, like, when you're drafting or you're recruiting to college, a lot of times you're making projections. You know, you're looking where a kid is at, you know, for the NHL at 18, at 19, and projecting where they're going to be at 22, 23, 24 years old. In college, you're watching a kid that's, you know, 16 to 19, and you're projecting how they're going to be in, you know, 1 to 3 years. And so what I would always tell kids is like, one of the most important things that we need to hear from your coach is that you're coachable. And the reason why is at the end of the day, and especially in today's landscape where there's a transfer portal and, you know, I don't want to say loyalty, but like if you don't get any better, school's not going to take you. And like you have to be coachable and you have to have a great work ethic or else you're not going to get there at the end of the day. And so like, you know, when we're hedging our bets on kids and we're putting potentially $250,000 of scholarship money into somebody, you know, we have to know what the process is and what the character is and the work ethic, because we're not getting you now. We're getting you in 4 years. We're getting you in 5 years in the NHL. So what you said right there, like all the kids, like hockey stuff aside, coachability and work ethic, that's going to really excite people, because that's when they're going to get you, and that's going to help, you know, feed their families when they get to you at the end of the road. Do you have like, you know, thinking about this, like the character side, the work ethic side, is there a player or two that you've had in all the years that you've been doing this that have really kind of stuck out? Maybe somebody who wasn't the early mature, you know, who was the quote unquote sexy kid at 14, 15, 16 years old, but you just the character, the work ethic, they willed their way to become a player through Warroad's system. Any player or two that stick out in your mind?
Yeah, you know, I've had, you know, probably since I've been coaching, I've probably had, you know, 10 to 15 guys that have went on to play college, you know, Division I college. And then, you know, I think we've had, you know, 3 or 4 NHL draft picks. And so, I mean, a lot of special players. And, you know, you know, the ones that there's a few that kind of stick out a little bit, just because like, and I could go on all day talking about former players that, you know, I've had and the intangibles and the things that they've brought to our teams. And, but like the Slukinski brothers that are at, you know, the Western Michigan right now, the reigning national champs. And, you know, they're going to hopefully make another run here. But you know, just the way they approach the game with their work ethic and their business-like attitude, and Grant was such a great leader by example, because, you know, I would always tell the younger kids, like, just do whatever Grant does because he's doing it the right way. And you know, just the way they went about their business. And I always use it, like when I talk to people, you know, it took me a long time to figure it out, where I go to juniors and go to college and then play pro. And, you know, we would talk about, you have to be a professional and treat it like it's your job and act like a pro. And, you know, those kids treated it like they acted like pros when they were 16 years old, and they came to the rink every single day to get better. And it didn't matter if it was a game or if it was a practice, they wanted to win and they wanted to get better. And, you know, Hammer's a goalie, and he wanted to go the entire practice without getting scored on, because that meant he was doing things the right way. And so yeah, those two, you know, they stick out. And then Jason Shagaby, who hopefully, I don't know, in a perfect world, it would be Western Michigan versus UMD for a national championship this year. And, you know, he's having a heck of a year. And Jason was different. He was, you know, he was quiet. He wasn't somebody that was gonna, you know, yell at somebody or kind of challenge them, but his hockey IQ was so, you know, even as a coach, I would sometimes question what he was doing. And then after a while I would be like, okay, he's just thinking the game on a level that not very many people think. And it's just, he was a special player. He ended up becoming our program's all-time points leader. He broke Oshie's record his senior year. And, you know, it's just, Jason thought the game and just did things that most players can't or won't even try to do. So, those guys really stick out. And but like I said, I could go on for another hour talking about former players and just the way that how they brought so much to our program and what they meant to my teams. And, I love them all.
Love that, man. So cool. So cool to hear about people like that. And especially when they get rewarded and they end up getting the results. Because even sometimes, players that always do the right things, they don't necessarily get the results that they want, but they're better people for it. Better husbands, better fathers, better business people, whatever it is that they go through. And man, yeah, it's just like so cool to have players like that, especially like, as you know, you're kind of only as good as your player leadership is. Like as a coach, if you have really great leaders in the locker room, that's a pretty easy team to coach, and that's a team that has a chance to win. If you don't have great player leadership, like I don't care how talented you are, you're in a tough spot as a coach. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, 100%. And that's all the great teams that I've had, that we had that in spades. It was the leadership was one thing I didn't have to worry about. And, I love I have times where, I'll come into the locker room and I'm thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to say, or I'm going to get after them because we're not doing this or that. And I'll walk in and our leadership's already taken care of it, where, we say it might be something as simple as, I think it was it was in the playoffs for us this year where, and I usually don't watch our team much in warmups. I'm usually focused on the other team and, trying to pick up things on that end. And, but we had a bad warmup and, I walked in the locker room and, our captain was giving it to the guys saying, we got to be better. We, if we're going to play the game like we just warmed up, we're going to lose. And, for me to hear that coming from the players, it means a lot because they understand and they get it. And I think it means more coming from the leaders than it does from the coach sometimes, because, and I always tell the kids, I said, it's your team. It's your team just as much as it's mine, if not more, because you guys are the ones that get to play the game, and you guys are the ones that are on the ice. And if you guys don't do it, it doesn't get done. I can't yell and scream, and I can only do so much. But if they kind of take that, upon themselves to, we're going to be better, or we're going to do this, that's how you have great teams. And we had that this year. I thought our leadership was outstanding, where they drove the ship and they understood where we needed to be and what we needed to do. And that's how you win championships.
Totally, man. So cool. And anytime you're a part of a team like that, where that just everybody's bought in,
right?
The leaders make sure everybody's bought in like that. It's so much more fun to come to the rink too, isn't it?
It is. And you get kids that have played, for 2, 3, 4 years for you. And, after a while they start sounding like you do, where they're saying the same things, and they're probably making fun of me half the time, where they're repeating a lot of the sayings that I have or the things that I do. And but you know what, at least I know they're listening, and they're picking up on it. And it comes from them. And even though I know they make fun of me sometimes for it, but I think it comes from a place where they understand, how much it means to me, and then they're getting the message, and then now they're going to relay it amongst themselves that, this is how we do things, and this is what we have to do to be successful. And as a coach, it makes it come to the rink every day just awesome. And the years like this, and most years for me, usually my best 2 hours, 3 hours of the day are when I'm at the rink, especially when I'm on the ice. And whatever's going on in your life, and you had a bad day at work or whatever, that hour and a half or 2 hours I'm on the ice with the kids, it's kind of everything goes away, where it's just we're just trying to get better and be a great hockey team.
Love that, man. Love that so much. Well, I want to ask you a few more things specifically about the town that you live in, Warroad, 1,800 people-ish strong, that has, developed so many of these amazing athletes. And one thing, as I was kind of looking into the town a little earlier today, there's a thing called the Riverbend Skate Path. And I immediately thought of like Mystery Alaska and Stevie Weeks, skating the river. But it sounds like one of the coolest things ever. Came out of a pretty tough time, it sounds like, with COVID when rinks were closed and things like that. But the town kind of came together and cleared some path along the river that connected a bunch of outdoor rinks, outside people's backyards and stuff. God, that just sounds like I want to move to Warroad hearing about that. So can you talk a little bit about this Riverbend skate path that you guys put together?
Yeah, and it did. It came out of COVID because, the rinks were closed and we couldn't be at the rink. And so there were a lot of people, I don't know how many there were that lived along the river, that they all shoveled rinks in their back, right in the river out of their backyard. And then somebody, I think one of the kids had the idea. They asked their dad, they said, well, can we make a path to connect, our rink to so-and-so's rink, just down the road? And the dad said, yeah, sounds good. And then they connected the two rinks, and then all of a sudden they connected the next one, and it just kind of grew from there to, now they've had it ever since COVID, where I think it's about 3 miles of a skate path that kind of winds through the river here in Warroad. And when it's not too cold, I've driven by where there's hundreds of people out there, skating the path, and then they'll stop and they'll play shinny on one of the outdoor rinks for a while, and then they'll skate, down farther. And it's been an awesome thing for our community and for the kids too. It just encourages the rink rat mentality more, and almost on the purest form. You're out there skating on the river, and it's awesome.
So cool. Oh my God. Yeah. I want to move the world right now. I just it's amazing. I mean, I think there's so many people that grow up in Minnesota and some of these northern places that, they fell in love with the game outdoors, man. It's on the pond, on the lake, on the river, whatever. And the fact that, I just feel like it's so cool, just like as a visual. Just think of this 3 mile long river, and every, I don't know, half a mile, let's say, there's somebody whose house, their backyard backs up to it, and they clear out a bigger path right there. And there's just shinny games going on, at the same time as that. It's just so cool.
And that's exactly what it is. And that, the only hard part is you're a little bit reliant on Mother Nature. So it's tough to be out there when it's 30 below zero. But then, and then this year, actually it just opened, I think it was about the 1st of February. We have another rink in Warroad. So we have 3 indoor sheets now. And the new one that we have, it's called the Outlaw Rink. And that kind of grew from, we used to have some outdoor rinks, and they were one of them was named the Outlaw Rink. And now we have the Outlaw Rink, but it's an indoor sheet for us. And it's not a full size sheet. It's about 2/3 of a size of a rink, but it's just promoting and giving more ice to the kids, where you can show up there at all hours and probably get out there and just go and play.
So cool. So when you think about, you grew up in Warroad, played for the high school, now you're back coaching after you played at UMD. But you've also played pro hockey, and you've seen and know a lot of people, around the hockey landscape all over the country and in Canada and stuff. When you think about some of the things that you hear maybe in other spots, and then you think about just kind of the experience that you have in Warroad, what for all the people that maybe don't live in Minnesota and don't necessarily understand the Minnesota hockey model, what do you think makes it so special? And in a couple different ways. Number one, just growing the game and getting people to fall in love with it. And then number two, just how it helps to develop the most elite players at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think the Minnesota model is the proof's in the pudding, the number of players that we put out. And then for us to, with that model too, it allows you to stay home. You can play youth hockey, and then you play for your high school team, and and then you can move on to juniors and college and pro. And it's not like how it used to be, say in Canada or in other places where you might have to leave home when you're 14, 15 years old because the hockey isn't good enough, or you have to move and go and billet with somebody because you have to be somewhere else. And I think that's the best part about the Minnesota model, is that it allows kids to stay home and be with their families and play hockey with their friends that they've played hockey with from the time they started all the way through high school. And I think that builds like we talked about, that sense of pride and playing for something bigger than yourself. And you're not just a free agent looking to jump to the next program that's offering you the more ice time or what line you're going to be on. It's you play for your community, you play for your high school, and I think it builds great hockey players because they understand what it means to play for a hockey team and not just be a kind of a free agent jumping around.
Yeah. Vex said it a couple podcasts ago. He's like, when we're watching a game from a scouting lens, we can tell who the selfish kids are. We can tell who the kids who are jersey chasers and are,
Right.
have played in 5 different organizations in 5 years. And yeah, man, I think there's something so powerful from a player development standpoint from wearing the same jersey, and that jersey meaning something to you and really wanting to play for not just yourself and your journey to make it, but helping your teammates to achieve the dreams that they have the same dreams that you do, and honor the people who've laid the bricks, who have put in a lot of sweat equity to allow you to have these experiences that you're having. And then, like we talked about earlier, just, the future generation, what you're doing today is going to have an effect on the kids coming through after you. So I'm in total agreement with you, man. I think the power of playing for something bigger, which is something I think the Minnesota model, and I think you guys do it in Warroad better than most, if not everybody. And that's the ability to really get kids to buy into that and families to buy into that. No greater player development, personal development than understanding your place and playing for something bigger.
And it's shown too that you're not falling behind by doing those things. You're not. It isn't where you have to chase the next jersey and chase the next best thing, and the grass is always greener. You can stay home and you can play, and you can still be successful, and you can still accomplish all your hockey dreams, and probably save your parents a lot of money too. So.
Yeah, totally. Well, I got one more question for you, Hardo. And just kind of like big picture, you think about, I love the taglines that you have, right? Like at the rink, like we're always open. You can go to the rink and skate pretty much any time that you want. You think about come early, stay late, skate every day. Just this culture that's been created in your town that gets people to fall in love with the game. And I always say it, man, like if you want to be an elite player, the most important thing you need to have is a passion for it. You have to love the game. There are very few people who can get by on talent alone, who don't like the game, but still, end up achieving those things. You have to have a love for it. So how do you feel like when you think about come early, stay late, skate every day? The rink is always open. You think about the fact of how many times you can go to the rink and see kids of different ages on the ice at the same time, doing things with each other, and just kind of the mentorship that comes with that. Like what makes Warroad hockey so special as it relates to helping people to absolutely fall in love with this game that we love?
Well, I think it's just the access and the opportunity to do those things. If you love the game and if you love playing hockey, I don't think there's anywhere better to do it than Warroad. And we have to. That's the way it's always been here. That was the way it was when I grew up. And I think we kind of realized, or somebody realized a long time ago, that with the town our size, it has to be that way if we want to compete and if we want to develop great hockey players. We have to do something a little bit different. We have to provide that access for kids that love the game and want to keep playing and want to be rink rats, because we don't have 1,000 kids in our association. I think we have about 250 kids in our association total. So it's usually 2 teams at each level, and that's and our numbers have stayed steady and strong. We haven't dipped too much and we haven't grown that much, but it's just that's our numbers, and we have to do things like that to provide that access and that opportunity to get kids to be the team that we want to be. So it's for me to grow up in it and now to be part of it as a coach, I guess I don't know any better. It took me leaving Warroad and going to Texas and playing hockey and going to other places and playing hockey to realize that, oh, geez, not everywhere is like Warroad, where we don't get to do step on the ice kind of whenever we want, or I can't do some of these things that I'm used to. And I know, and it's not just Warroad. There's a lot of small towns in Minnesota where it's like that, and that's just we have to do things like that to try to compete with the big boys.
And compete with the big boys you do with all the success that you guys have had. Well, Hardo, thank you so much, man, for coming on again, and congrats, dude. I'm so happy for you and your family and the whole Warroad hockey family for winning the state championship. I think, it was funny the last time, God, it's probably been 5 years. Like I feel like you were maybe first year or two that we were doing this, that we had you on. Hey?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think, I don't know. This was my 14th year. So, yeah, it's probably been 5-10 years since I've been on here last, but after a while, all the years blend together, and it goes fast, but I love it.
100%. And it was funny, like when we had you on the last time, I remember, like, I could not believe how many people reached out to me being like, I kind of want to move to Warroad. Like people from that are kind of just stressing with youth hockey and all this kind of stuff. That's like, God, and I had legitimate people be like, I'm really thinking about moving there. For real after hearing you talk about it. And it's funny because it's I don't want to say it's impossible to recreate Warroad in different places, particularly outside of Minnesota. There's certainly a lot of things that are specific to your town that can't be replicated in maybe some of the bigger cities or things like that. But what I encourage everybody to do is don't move away from it. Get closer to it if you can. Find ways. I've actually had this dream of pitching all of these even private hockey rinks, that having an hour or two of a day that's called your rink rat program, where there's literally no instruction and you pay, I don't know, however much money up front, and you just get access to that ice every day. Doesn't matter how old you are, whatever, but I actually think that could be pretty profitable for private rinks, and it's also great for development, and kids fall in love with the game. And so, for everybody that's find a way to get a little bit you can't replicate it, but find a way to get a little bit closer,
And that's what I've tried to help programs. I've had people within Minnesota reach out to me where they have open ice, or they have, they see an opportunity where, how do we do this? And, so I kind of walk them through it and say, here's what you do. And, sometimes they struggle with it because they've never done anything like that before. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to promote the rink rats. Everything is so structured and so set in stone. And so I've helped numerous coaches and programs try to put things in place. And it's tough to replicate what we have here. We have so many great people in our town, volunteers and people that have left their legacy, where they've left foundations and trusts to kind of help Warroad stay the way Warroad's always been. And I can't thank those people enough that they were to have the forethought to, I'm going to leave this money and put it in a good spot, and hopefully we can keep going in the right direction. And Warroad hockey wouldn't be what it is without the people that have came before us and that have done those things, that have kind of laid the bricks and the foundation for us to keep doing what we do and keeping it special for everybody.
Hell yeah, man. Amen. I love that so much. Well, Hardo, we're going to keep you on for 10 questions, just a rapid fire that'll end things off, and that'll be in our Hockey Think Tank U community. But man, this was such a powerful, awesome conversation. So happy for you, man, for bringing that state title home to Warroad. I know how much that means to you and your family and obviously the town too. So congrats. Appreciate your time here today, and go celebrate. Keep the party going. Let's go.
I will. Thank you.
Thanks, Hardo. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player drops and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states, void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer, copyright 2026, NHL, all rights reserved.